Let's jump right into our discussion of Watkins Glen. Brad Gilley from down in Texas. When Shane van Gisbergen had the lead with 1 lap to go, did you think it was over?
I thought it was going to be pretty hard for anyone to muscle it away from him. Look, I mean, he is one of the best in the world when it comes to road racing, especially when it comes to road racing in this style of race car. So, yeah, I didn't think anyone was going to be able to take it away from him, much less muscle it away from him like Chris Buescher did.
And there might have been only one person on the planet that thought that he could take it away from him, Chris Buescher.
That's a big accomplishment for myself. We've been so good on these things. We've averaged out so good. Much like our season, we've had a fantastic average throughout the year. We haven't been able to win a road course yet, and we finally got that done. Had to pass a lot of cars, had to have some fantastic strategy, and if we're going to be blunt about it, not having to think about points at all on the playoff side of it or any cutoffs, opened up more opportunities for us to be able to go out there and get that win.
So Chris Buescher now had the freedom of racing just to win. Alexis, made a difference.
I think it made a huge difference, especially at a racetrack like Watkins Glen, where a lot of your playoff competitors were racing specifically to get stage points, so they weren't able to short pit before the stage breaks and do all of those things that help you kind of leapfrog and get track position. And so I think it was a huge deal that he could pretty much just go for broke and go to get that win. I mean, that's why I think you see the top 5 drivers are all non-playoff drivers in the race. And the first one we see is Chase Briscoe in 6th, because those guys were racing for points.
8 of the top 10 were non-playoff drivers. Chris Buescher said he knew it'd be tough.
Knew when he got that spot on us on that last restart that it was going to be very tricky to get back by him, and wanted to make sure that we stayed in the hunt, that we drove the thing hard and kept pressure on them and made them at least realize we were still there, that it wasn't going to be a cruise away. So I think ultimately that was the ticket. It's a lot of fun, just a good old-fashioned hard battle all the way to the end. There's been so many fantastic last 1 or 2 laps here at the Glen. Going to go back and watch that one and going to feel like it's going to add up right there with some of the old-school Ambrose, Keselowski battles.
Kyle Petty, we know that Chris Buescher won 3 races last year. He had been winless. He wins this one. In some ways, I'm more impressed with this W than any of the others that he got. Your thoughts about that?
Yes, because and I think I will say this: he probably is too. Okay,
yeah.
And he really is, because I think as a driver, there's races you win, and there's races that you win, and he won this one. He's the latter. He made this happen. He didn't just drive away from him. He didn't just make things do things like that. He had to will himself. He had to put himself in position. So, yeah, I think this is let's go all the way back to Pocono, when he won Pocono. And the rain came and the short and the way everything played out. This is as far away from that as you can get. This is what makes a championship driver. These are the moments where his confidence from this moment forward, it's got to be a huge boost for him. So it was a big day.
By the way, it doesn't get mentioned a lot anymore. This means he qualifies for the All-Star race next year. So it doesn't have to go run any hooligan shows or anything.
Good for him. Good for him.
He'll be racing up in North Wilkesboro next season. Shane van Gisbergen, I think all of us on the panel today thought, okay, he's got it. He's in front, and Shane knew it wasn't going to be that easy.
Driver error, I knew Chris was really going to send it and push me if he could get there, and as I turned in, got a bit loose and clipped the inside wall and just drive error. I'm gutted. Weather tech tomorrow was really good. The race was awesome with Ross and Chris and the others at the end. I'm gutted we couldn't get it, but I had a lot of fun, but I'm pretty angry at myself.
Shane van Gisbergen takes the blame there. It says it was driver error. He slipped. Got to give Chris Buescher a lot of credit. Top 10, Alexis alluded to this, so I'll go ahead and read them. Were Chris Buescher, Shane van Gisbergen, Carson Hocevar.
Huge day for that guy.
Huge.
Yeah.
Brad?
Oh, yeah. All of Spire, all 3 cars in the top 8.
Yeah. Zane Smith got in there and did really well. I just made a rookie mistake and left my phone on. 6th was Chase Briscoe. Michael McDowell. Corey LaJoie was 8th. Ryan Preece was 9th, and 10th was Austin Cindric. That's big for Austin because he actually is a playoff driver. Brad, explain to me how 8 of the top 10 are non-playoffs.
I think Chris Buescher probably said it best when he said, hey, it helped me that I didn't have to worry about points in going to win this race. Look, I think we saw some drivers put themselves, in a bad spot after Atlanta Motor Speedway and didn't need to be in a bad spot. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that coming up. But if you're one of those drivers who left in a good spot, why not try and stay there? And I think looking at a race like Watkins Glen, where maybe you don't have a chance to win, but you have a better chance at maximizing points, is something that you have to focus on. And I'll have to go back to stage one. Martin Truex Jr., James Small kept him out to win that stage. That was 10 extra points in that race. And heck, where they finish this one, they're going to need those 10 extra points potentially if they want to advance into the next round. So I personally feel that if you were a playoffs driver, you were in protect mode yesterday, more so than you were in attack mode at Watkins Glen.
And let's do a little episode of myth busting here, Kyle Petty. We were told before this race, we have a new tire. It's going to fall off more than the Grand Canyon. It'll change everything. It seemed like
and it didn't.
Maybe not.
And it didn't. And I point to one example. I point to the example from the tire perspective. I'll go to the racetrack. The racetrack didn't change either. If we talk about the racetrack, even Austin Cindric said, no, we're still going out there. Yeah, you can hear it like you do when you run off an interstate. You can hear it but we're still going out where they thought we wouldn't be. So the racetrack really didn't change except for the curbing. But the tire itself, and the example I point to is Shane and Ross Chastain. When they kind of got hosed at the end of stage 2, when they didn't have an opportunity to pit because Suarez spun into the gravel, they chose to stay out and run the fuel and run those tires longer. They drove away from the pack again. Yes, eventually somebody run back up there and caught them towards the end of that run, but at the beginning of that run for the first 10 or 15 laps, they drove away from the pack again. So those tires that were supposedly going to fall off 4 seconds, they weren't any better than the new tires once you were in a pack. So I don't think the tires changed the race. I don't think the racetrack changed the race. I think it was the same thing that we'd seen in the past.
Alexis, I did feel like this was a fun race to watch. There were a lot of cool stories.
I think it was extremely entertaining. I think, obviously, from a playoff perspective, it was huge because I felt like, and I even texted a friend of mine during the race, that there probably were maybe 1 or 2 drivers, and I think probably Chase Briscoe and Austin Cindric were the ones that were playoff drivers that didn't get themselves involved in some type of incident, whether it's, a crash that was not of their making or making mistakes on pit road, Brad Keselowski, those types of things. It seemed like every single playoff driver had a little bit of a wobble yesterday, and those made the storylines very compelling.